Problem 13. Sean, Christian, Anthony, and Mike went to brunch. Sean paid 30, Christian paid 10, Anthony paid 20. The total bill was 75. How much did Mike pay? Now, right now, we haven't really discussed or gone into equations, but that's how we could set this up. Two different ways we could set this up. We have Sean paid 30, Christian paid 10, Anthony paid 20, and we don't know how much Mike paid, but the total was 75. That's one way we could set it up. Or we could also set it up as 75. Then we're going to take away Sean paid 30, Christian paid 10, and Anthony paid 20. And that will give us what Mike paid. And we don't know what he paid. So either way, it's actually an equation. So let's add these up. Let's do it this way. 30 plus 10 is 40. Plus 20, this gives us 60, plus what Mike paid gives us 75. So 60 plus what Mike paid gives us 75. 60 plus what gives us 75. So we could come over to the side, and 75 minus 60. 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 6 is 1. So Mike paid $15. And we could do the same thing here. This X would be Mike. 75 minus 30 is 45. Minus 10 is 35. And then we have to take away 20 more. 35 minus 20 is 15. Same thing, either way we do it. So for 13, how much did Mike pay? Mike paid $15. Moving on to 14. Jane deposited 40, so that's money going in. A couple days later, she withdrew 50, that's money going out. The next day, she deposited 20 more, that's money going in. A day later, she withdrew 150, that's money going out. Right? An expression that represents the change. Okay, so I like to do all addition. So she deposits 400. We'll actually do 2 here, but she deposits 400. Then something happens. Then she withdraws 50. So she's taking away 50. So we're going to add negative 50. The next day she deposits 20 more. So that's a positive 20, and we're going to keep adding. A day later, she withdraws 150, so that's 150 going out. This is what this is how I would set it up, because it's all addition. Now we could, if we were to solve it, which it's not telling us to because it just says to write an expression. If we were to solve it, we combine the positives, combine the negatives, and then add those. Another way to set this up, you start with 400. A couple days later, she withdrew 50, so you're taking away 50. Next day, she deposits 20. A day later, she withdraws 150, so minus 150. These are both correct. They're both the right answer. Moving on to 15. Write an addition or subtraction problem modeled by the number line below. Okay, so we'll do them both. You don't have to. Again, I prefer the addition. So you start with 2. And then we're going to add. Which direction are we going? We're going in the negative direction. So we're going to add a negative. How many spaces in the negative direction are we going? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're adding negative 6. Starting at 2, adding 6 in the negative direction. Then we're moving again, so we're going to add. Then we move 2 in the positive direction. So this is an addition or subtraction. This is an addition problem modeled by the number line. The subtraction problem, you start at 2. Going to the left is taking away. So you're taking away how many spaces? 6. And then you're adding 2 spaces. 2 minus 6 plus 2. These are both completely correct. Again, I prefer the addition, but if you're more comfortable with the subtraction, that's okay. 16, Terry went to the park to go jogging. The beginning of the running path has an elevation of -2 feet. The highest elevation is 14 feet. What's the difference in elevation between the highest point and the beginning of the path? So this is a whole lot of words telling us what's the difference between these two numbers. So we could think of it as a number line. The smallest is -2. I'm sorry, the lowest elevation is -2 and the highest is 14. And let's just throw in that 0. What's the difference between these two? So how many spaces are between these? For finding the difference, we'll take highest number, take the difference of the smallest number. Instead of subtracting, add the opposite. So we're going to add the opposite. 14 plus 2 is 16. Or you could count. 1, 2, it takes 2 spaces to get to 0, 14 more to get to 14. The highest point would be 16 feet. On to 17. The value of x plus y is negative. X is a positive. What must be true about y? Okay, so x plus y gives us a negative answer. X is positive. So let's just pick any integer. You could pick any one you wanted. Let's do 5 plus y equals a negative number. Well, if we're adding, we have a number line. 5 is here. We're adding, which direction do we need to go? Well, in order to get a negative number, all the negative numbers are over here. In order to get a negative, we need to move in the negative direction. So y, we know, has to be a negative number because we have to move in the negative direction. Now, what if we had -2? Well, 5 plus -2, we'd only move 2 spaces. We would only move 2 spaces. How many spaces do we have to move? Well, if we moved 5 spaces, we'd be back at 0. If we moved 6 spaces, we'd be at negative. Okay, so that works. So this has to be at least -6. So what has to be true about y? Well, it has to be negative. What else do we know about y? Well, it has to have more than 6 spaces. So this number has to be bigger than 5. We can't necessarily use bigger. We've been talking about absolute value, so we have to use that here. This number has to be negative, and it has to have a greater absolute value.